How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious. Welcome to my channel, and a big, extremely friendly welcome to my new friend in Raid Shadow Legends, Boozer. Boozer, I think it's not an exaggeration to say, is the best, most seasoned free-to-play player in the entire game. So I've learned so much from you, and I'm so happy to have you here. How you doing, my man?
Hey, Fast. Thanks so much for having me on and introducing me to your channel and everybody here. So really appreciate that, and really happy to have a creator chat, and obviously someone that's really passionate about Raid. So it's really been a pleasure to meet with you and spend some time chatting about Raid. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. And yeah, it has been a pleasure. We've already been talking for an hour just before filming because we had to get to know each other, and we're just having a lot of fun. But yeah, you're, I think, at least as passionate about games and certainly content creation as I am. So it's great to have you here. And let's get right into the video. We are talking about what is the most efficient, min-maxy, perfect way to progress in this game. Obviously a loaded question, but as a very advanced, sincerely endgame player, as a free-to-play, I know you've got a bunch of excellent tips for us. So without further ado, I figure maybe you give us a little overview of what you might want to do, and then I'll give you a 30-second to 1-minute preview of the account, and then you just tell us what do we focus on, because it's obvious what to do in this game when there's a fusion. It's obvious what to do if you get that new person and you need to run Minotaur for them. But for other stuff, there's so many things to do, so much content, it's hard to know if you're doing the right thing. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, great question. There's a lot of different ways to handle this, and a lot of it's going to come down to it depends. And what does it depend on? It depends on your account and how far it's progressed, what kind of champions you have, what are your actual goals in this game, how active are you in this game, are you a spender, are you not spending, are you expecting yourself to have lofty expectations like in competitive play, or are you just having a casual stroll through this game? So there's a lot of things you have to consider if you want to be efficient and the proper direction for yourself. I think generally for most people, I think doing the advanced quests every day is a good start. Helps you progress towards your legendary book once a month. Obviously, legendary books are going to be really hard for newer players to get a hold of, especially if you're not tackling the highest level of clan boss. Which leads me to my second point. Clan boss is still probably the #1 priority for anybody progressing through this game, especially starting in this game. Getting the top chest of Ultra Nightmare gives you access to the top shards, which is the sacred shard, the yellow shard, and of course the legendary books. Now you don't get crazy amounts of these resources. You get between 5 and 10 depending how many chests you do. If you do double chest plus the double nightmare chest, so that's 4 chests at the top 2 difficulties, you're probably looking at about 10 sacred shards and about 10 books a month. So it's not crazy amounts. But these are probably still the top things you need to focus on. And if you're super, super early in the game, having basically champions that can perform in various areas. So you need them to perform in arena, you need them to perform in dungeons, and then lastly, you need them to perform in clan boss. So these are the 3 main areas you need your, starting 5 champions to be really good at. And just focusing on those 5 is really, really important. If you start spreading yourself out and you have suddenly 5 damage dealers and you don't have the gear to gear out 5 damage dealers, well, you're going to have 5 damage dealers that don't deal any damage, and they can't really help you out in all areas. So you do have to be considerate of, the champions that you bring. So it's a lot. It's a lot of questions. Anywhere specifically that you feel like maybe for yourself, because you're a level 55 account, maybe some things are more fresh in your mind, but anywhere specific that, you've had some issues, perhaps, we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, perfect. I think that was an incredible job of touching on all the key things I think we had to get into, but a really nice way to set the stage. Essentially what I wanted to get into is, whether you call it the early game, the mid game, whatever it is, we don't have to put a label on it, but every player, until really they're in the end game or the later part of the late game, is always going to be faced with the question of like, what should I be doing now? How can I progress? So yeah, I think that's a nice transition. Let me show you where I'm at, give you just a very quick lay of the land, and maybe you can kind of we can talk about it through my account, we can do some other hypotheticals, but you certainly reach a point where, yes, Raid does do a lot of handholding. hand holding, right? Your hand is held, is what I'm trying to say. Do your dailies, do your weeklies. Is there an important tournament that you have to do? Is there a fusion and you have to do every freaking thing and you have no choice to finally get your 5 guys ready? Those things are obvious, but when you have these moments in between a fusion or a Titan event, or should you even go for the Titan event, you have to start, the pros and cons, weighing what is the efficient thing to do. How do you min max? So shall I show you in 30 seconds where I'm at?
Sure.
All right, let's start in the thing you're shockingly good at. Live Arena, Bronze 4. I try to do this every day. Okay. Do not succeed to do this every day. Classic Arena, we are in Gold 5 now. I do kind of ping pong between it. Pretty baby thing here, 164. Sometimes I'll put
staples, Alice, Wukong. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Booster
I did just
put with the gold grab.
Yeah, and I just got Dazdirk, so he'll probably be swapping in there, and we'll get Gorgrab focused more on tag. I'll show you Doom Tower. We beat the normal Doom Tower. Actually, let me be honest. I got to the final boss on normal Doom Tower, and I forgot it was resetting that day. I thought it was resetting the next. So last month, I did not beat the final boss, but I promise I could have. But those are the moments we make mistakes, right? I'm trying this time around back to raid. If it was the old me, if something like that happened, I would have hated myself for a week at least. And I'm just trying to live and let live now. What else? Curse City, I'm doing the bare minimum. I keep getting hung up on these things. I just don't have awakenings. So it is what it is. And then I guess what people would be very keen on, Faction Wars, I can show you. We're doing our best. Faction Wars is much easier than when I used to play because you can move your gear around. So whatever that is, in the middle of every month, you can knock out 5 factions, much higher than you should be able to. But obviously I mostly just lean on Alice is good, Kale is good, Wukong is good, and those are my good factions. Actually, Tagoar does enough DPS while never dying in his bolster set that I've gone quite far in orcs. But aside from that, I guess it'd be dungeons, right? And I think this is probably where a lot of people have questions. So after that, I'll just hand it over to you. Obviously, basic things, Minotaur, all the keeps, they've been maxed for a long time now. I'll tell you, Dragon, I've been farming 24 since the past 23 weeks, maybe since day 26, I think is when I beat it, 25. Ice Golem, I haven't even tried to go past 20 because I just haven't wanted to farm Ice Golem. And I thought that was pretty dang efficient since I wasn't going to get 25 or probably even 24 for the Fabian tournaments. Spider is very neglected. For Fabian, I just farmed 10 just to finish it. I have not tried pushing as far as I could, but I did farm 23 for Fire Knight. Sand Devil, I mostly do 11. I can do 13, but I find 11 to be max efficiency. And I've done that because I want to do my prisms, and I've not even one time attempted the Shogun. I figure that's a story for another day. So I think, is there anything I forgot to show you? I think we kind of touched bases. Oh, I guess Clan Boss. This is my team.
Hydra?
We'll get to Hydra in one moment. Okay. That's the most embarrassing. You guys decided 1 key on Brutal. I can always get the 1 key on Brutal, unless Void sometimes, because I don't get as much Geo cheese of the extra hits. Nightmare, I will easily 2 key if it's Spirit. Sometimes I can 2 key if it's blue, and I cannot 2 key if it's red. I have not tried Ultra Nightmare yet. This is the team. The team definitely needs work, but that's probably a story for another day, or maybe the video we do on your channel. I don't know. By the way, you're going to roast the crap out of my account on your channel. I got to wrap this up. I said a minute. We're at 4 minutes. But there you go. That's the team if anyone's curious. Chimera, we can one key. So that's what I've been doing. And Hydra is a joke. I'm just able to get, I think maybe I just got this. I think that's all I did, the novice chest. I'm assuming we'll be better this week because we get better every week. But yeah, Hydra, I'm so bad.
Okay, awesome. I mean, yeah, for a level 55 account, you don't expect too much, but yeah, we can definitely touch on some points here for progression. Things like Spider hitting 20 is probably pretty important eventually for you. I like that you're kind of capping out at Dragon 24. Dragon 24 is pretty efficient. Usually the level 24s, mathematically they drop more quality gear. They drop more 6-star epic plus gear. Whereas the 25s give you slightly more legendary percentage, but you get less 6-star epic gear. So on 24, unless you're, only gunning for legendary gear, 24 is actually more efficient for gear. And since you're getting higher quality gear, higher rank rarity gear, you actually get slightly more silver farming 24 than you do 25. So 25 is not super necessary. CVC points, 25 give you more CVC points. But also, as soon as you get into hard, 25 becomes basically nothing. So you never touch 25 again. So 24 is totally fine for gear farming. I farmed a lot of 24 back in the day. So I would say that would be efficient. Minotaur, I see you're doing 15. So I always advocate, farming scrolls in Minotaur. I was just talking to you off camera, and I was already doing Minotaur in the background and stuff. So I still do it myself, even though I have plenty of resources to just 800 gem and move on, but I still do it myself. You get a lot of benefits. Doing Minotaur, if you max out a champion, you get over 1 million silver, so that that stacks up. You get 50 levels for XP on that champion roughly, and yeah, it's just it just takes some time, but definitely more efficient to do that. Shogun, Sand Devil at your levels, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Like, the main piece of gear that you would probably care about the most is if you had like a 6-star speed boot.
I got one.
Yeah, if you got that, then you probably want the plus 12 ascended speed on it. But that's going to take you a lot of tries.
That got the hit. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad set.
Yeah, so that's gonna take you a long time, especially if you can't farm the max levels. So now you can't without the max levels, you can't get the dust, you can't get the gold, the gold oils for the full 12. So I wouldn't worry too much about Sand Devil or Shogun, because you're not going to be fixing too much good gear. You're fixing kind of bad gear to make it better. But the amount of investment you have to put into these dungeons at low levels to get those bad pieces of gear to make them okay, it's kind of not worth it. So for you, I would say not for you, but like for just general players up until you're dominating the dungeons in a good space, I wouldn't focus too much on Sand Devil or Shogun.
I think that's a really strong point. So that's kind of where my head was at, but you said it far more eloquently than I could have. It's like, why do you need these materials if my accessories suck? I don't want to ascend them, right? And so it's like, I've got one cool piece on Alice that I ascended. And I think that's this is just a lucky drop from Siege, right? This is pretty cool for where I'm at.
Ooh, that's nice. That's very nice.
Yeah. We got the accuracy roll and we get that. It's pretty cool. But aside from that, I got that. You get a couple materials anyway. Like, I've never farmed Shogun. I got the materials from, I guess it was Dungeon Divers or something like that. They drop. But you touched on a couple key things. So it's like, clearly that's not where you want to be. But then it comes down to, with these gear raids, where do you want to be? Where do you want to focus? Like, back in my day, we talked about it off camera, but it was all about Dragon. It was like, get Dragon 20. That was as high as it went. And you got to get it. Get your speed gear, get your accuracy gear. And then we got Perception and we got the Forge. And it's like, is accuracy that good? And then all of a sudden people, really were like, we got the 25s and it's like, God, I really there's so many solo things you can do with regen sets. And I really want stun and holy crap, Savage, right? And the tides kind of change. And then kind of Ice Golem falls off. But then these things got buffed. Most of them have gotten buffed. Of the lower things have gotten a lot better. So things kind of, the winds change which way they're blowing. And then you've got this general thing, which you were doing today when we were having our chat and it was going in the background. It's like, but dang, I got all these guys and I want to get masteries. But I know to a lot of new players or progressing players, it feels a little, until you're solo farming it, right? And everyone else is like, you've got 4 people that need masteries and they're all getting levels. So you're getting a little champ training and you feel efficient. It feels like there's no double dip, which everyone, double dip or triple dip with other events. So I mean, there's no one solution for this, but what should people maybe weigh when it's like, all right, we have a lull right now, right? Like, I actually think this is why I wanted to film this video today with you. It's like, we're in between Fabian Fusion and whatever's coming, whether it's a Titan or a Path or whatever. We've got a couple cheeky things, but this is a Sand Devil with no prisms, so I think a lot of people will be less interested. We got a cute little epics only. I'll let mine load. I might push for top 10 because I'm assuming it's going to be really easy because people don't see, at least at my level, people don't seem to care. But yeah, it's like, how do you know? Obviously it's a loaded question, but how do you make the assessment on your account? You have all these heroes you want to build, you have all these heroes that need masteries, your gear sucks.
Yeah, a lot of times I do follow a lot of the events, mainly because they do give some free resources like gems, energies, especially the low hanging ones, the really low hanging fruits. So here you got some coins, you got the Mortal Soul Stone that could be really important to a newer account. So picking those up kind of without trying too hard, those kind of make sense. In terms of hitting a dungeon for gear, I think for early mid game, you're still probably looking towards Dragon, because Dragon will be the easiest one where you progress the highest in, and when you get the highest in that dungeon, it gives you the highest probability of getting 6-star gear, and that's where you want to be. You want to get the 6-star gear. It doesn't matter if you get the 6-star, 6-star lifesteal, like crit damage glove or whatever bad set glove, a destroy set glove or whatever. But it's a 6-star crit damage glove, and that's going to boost up your damage dealer or whatever when you're using off pieces for your builds. And then they still have the speed set, which is still very important. Obviously, there's other ways to get speed now, pinpoint, perception. Speed gear is still going to be really, really important. So picking that up from Dragon's really good. But the big thing is accessibility and ease of that dungeon, because you're not going to be farming Fire Knight Fire Knight, high Fire Knight for a long time, because you need pretty specific champions to go high and well and consistent. And Fire Knight hard is one of the hardest ones to do high. Spider, similar idea. You need kind of specific champs to do it really, really consistently and really fast. Ice Golem, I would say Ice Golem, not necessarily that great early game. But it is an end game dungeon where there's some end game sets in here, especially the curse set and the reflex set are very good. Provoke set also has found its place as well, mainly for Hydra.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, mainly for Hydra. But later game, you're going to be looking at, Fire Knight. So you're going to basically replace Dragon with Fire Knight. You're going to spend more time there. You're going to pick up your Savage set. You're going to pick up your regen gear. So now you can build solo teams. You can build proper damage dealers. The necessity of some of these sets go down the farther along in the game you go. So I'm just going to touch upon this real quick, but basically in the super end game, you barely even farm dungeons. Your energy goes into the special set event dungeons or Shogun or Sand Devil, and you're fixing up your premium gear already, but your premium gear doesn't even come from those dungeons anymore. Your premium gear comes from stuff that's basically, free. And they're gated, right? You get them from Feral, like Feral set, you get Protection, Stone Skin, Merciless, Supersonic. Those are the best pieces, gear sets in the game, pretty much. And those are gated by time, progression, and stuff like that. Not really gated by energy or anything like that. It's interesting. It's like in the beginning, you kind of just you dump all your energy in your dungeon trying to get this gear, but later on your gear becomes very useless. Yeah. So things like masteries have what I call forever value. Yeah. When you invest in a champion, they forever have it on them, regardless of how the meta changes or what gets introduced. They always have that boost. So I always recommend doing masteries, especially on champions that are very important to you at that time. If that 60 mastery, like that War Master on that 160 champion, gives you that 21 kill on that faction wars, or gives you that 1 key on clan boss, you go for it. And then that's probably your main objective, right? So, at that point, you just gotta focus on what you need to do. Most accounts don't have, I would say most free to play or most low spenders or whatever, they don't have tons and tons of champions to build all the time that are top priority. There's a lot of nice to haves or ideas that you want to do with so you just need to focus on whichever ones you want to do and then hop into Minotaur and just get it done. So that's kind of my idea.
You're spot on, obviously, but you touched on a bunch of cool things. I mean, one thing, just to zoom out, but also make it relevant to me and maybe a lot of the people that watch my content and are newer, I already have felt why do I want to farm Spider? I actually farmed a decent amount of the event dungeon and I've got all this pinpoint stuff. The amount of stats I'd need on a Spider accessory to outweigh the extra pinpoint bonus, especially those first 3 or 4, 5 levels, right? So that's a really interesting thing. I showed you that Feral banner. It's I don't think there's one thing in Spider that could drop that'd be more useful for my Alice, right? It's just, you can't compete. So that is something you feel right out of the gate. And I'll tell you, as we're both OG players, I think you said you started playing in 2020, I started playing in 2019. Everything's changed in that regard. But yeah, I think that's a great theme to this. It's what's really going to help you and is going to be consistent. So when you talked about Minotaur, it's those masteries will never drop in value. There's not going to be Curse City 2 Electric Boogaloo that drops super masteries, or at least not coming anytime soon, right? So whereas there kind of is Curse City Electric Boogaloo with the gear, it's that Merciless is going to be a whole nother level. So I think it's really, really well put. I think what you're kind of talking about, which is just that free to play grind mentality. And it's just you got to go for what's the minimum that I need. And sometimes the minimum's a lot, but you got to just don't overdo anything. Say one really quick thing to move into spending stuff that you really nailed is, especially when you're progressing, you should not developed enough to be able to build a million things, even if you got the biggest budget of all time, unless you're building all those materials to build stuff as well. So like for me, I've been enjoying pulling on the Prism stuff, but I actually have about, a nice little handful of people I'm interested in, right? We got Dazdirk recently. We got Durandel, who I was just running wherever he is. I finally got a Cold Heart. Finally, it's only been a month and a half. It actually feels really early, but there's Ultimate Gallico Menu for Spider. Morag needs from Master. The list goes on, right? Fabian from the Fusion. So I just personally, I think you'll agree with this. I would encourage people. It's really nice getting champions at the beginning, but it's not like you can build 30 champions at once. So once you feel like you're checking some boxes, then maybe if you want to start spending on stamina, on energy, things that are actually going to help you farm this stuff out.
What you said exactly makes sense. Like getting the champion is just one part of the equation, right? So in the beginning, you're going to be lacking everything: gear, books, gems, energy, masteries. Then you're going to be talking about blessings. Then you're going to be talking about the glyphs. You're talking about the glyphs for it. These things just take time. You can't even spend your way out of it. Like you can't buy glyphs to boost your stats. You can't buy merciless gear. You can't buy stone skin gear. Like this is like the PvP stuff, right? So like you can buy your way through dungeons. It's not a big deal, but for the PvP stuff, you just can't buy your way out of it. You can't buy glyphs. You can't buy the best sets, the PvP sets. So it's a grind, right? A lot of it's just a grind, and we try to do whatever we can to have a sustainable journey for ourselves. Like monetarily and obviously mentally.
Post Fabian Fusion, I think a lot of people are feeling mentally for sure. These things are grueling. I guess that's one other point we could touch on, and I'd love to hear you shed light on it. Like for me, I think a great thing is like always go for the bird in the hand. So it's like, cool, there's a Newt progressive, but like good freaking luck. Like what is this if you put him on to hit on the first one? It's like 4% or something. Wouldn't you be better off
7%.
just 7%?
7%. Yeah.
Exactly 7%. But you get it. It's like the lottery, right? You got to hit and it's got to be him. So do you want to do that or save your one sacred? Don't gamble. And you just got Fabian, get that 5-star soul. That's something you can't count on otherwise. It's kind of obvious, but there's a lot of moments that are like that, right? So it's, I could have fun competing in the dragon thing, or maybe you run like a couple people that need levels and you do the bare minimum just to hit a little bit here, maybe get the top 10 or get a couple bottom rewards, and then put the rest into the champ training right now, which is probably going to help you a bunch. You're going to pick up some curing gear when you're doing the farming anyway. You'll probably end up hitting the couple things you need, and you probably will get that Mortal Soul Stone you talked about, and you can get that oil so you don't have to farm the Sand Devil. I think there are a lot of things where people can make that the priority. Any final thoughts you want to say to bring it home? I mean, we didn't talk about the Iron Twins. That's obviously tough for a lot of people.
Super tough. Yeah.
There's
gonna be like there's gonna be some things that are really out of reach until you reach like certain champion requirements, like champion checks. It's gonna be really tough, and at the same time, it's not efficient to hit like super low levels or spend super high energy on low levels. General advice. I mean, a lot of people they view shards like lottery tickets, and then they get disappointed when they don't win. But maybe change the mindset. I would suggest change the mindset and look at shards as currency. Look at them as spending to get something. Look at them as spending to get something that you will get at the end of it. So that's why you use it for fusions. You will get the fusion at the end when you spend these shards. Then whatever you get along the way is kind of like a bonus, right? So thinking about it that way kind of takes the edge off of sweating out some of the pulls a little bit. So it might help some people out.
I think that's a huge point. View these as points in waiting. Currency is a cool way to put it, because it's like at the beginning you need a pull because you need some champs on your roster. But even where I'm at right now, I honestly don't feel like I need to pull, and I've done very little pulling. Just you get a couple units, you get all the free starter stuff. If people use my link description, top and comment, or there's a million links out there, you're getting 4 good ones that you're going to want to build for free. You got Wukong, you get Alice, or whatever the thing when you guys are watching is there. You have just a couple lucky pulls, like my Dirindel or my Cold Heart or my Hotatsu, whatever it's going to be. Then all of a sudden that's a lot, right? That's going to get you to the promised land. These are just kind of like the things that are going to bring it home for you. And it also, I think you'll agree, if it's a champ chase and you get lucky and you hit on a sacred shard and it's, you know, a D tier legendary, it hurts a lot worse if it's helping you get a Fabian, as opposed to you gambled on the Newt progressive and you swung and you fricking missed and you pulled a marksman.
Exactly. In terms of like final thoughts, like once again, like thank you so much for having me on and having this chat. It's refreshing to you know, speak to another creator, especially a new one, but not really a new one. I know like you definitely, you know, are very knowledgeable, and I can tell you've been playing for, you know, since the beginning. And then it's kind of cool to have your perspective from back in the day, and then obviously seeing it as a new player, born again player again. So it's
born
really cool.
again
and,
is funny.
and
That's funny.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't even need to give you like any tips. I'm like, you know all this stuff already. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's refreshing, and I appreciate you reaching out and all that. So, you know, so thank you, and thank you for having me on the channel. So hopefully the viewers enjoyed our little chat here.
Absolutely. Well, first off, there's a ton I just learned, so I appreciate that. Then there's way more I'll keep learning from you as I watch your stuff. And by the way, guys, we're heading over to Boozer's channel, so there'll be another video there where I think we might go even further in depth to a lot of this stuff, and specifically with my account, maybe roast the crap out of it. But yeah, guys, if you want just like some of the most, like if you want to really just be efficient in this game and dominate the game, definitely check out Boozer's channel. It's been so great to have you here. And yeah, it's kind of cool, like talking to a real OG, and then I had my gap, and then you just like blowing my mind, filling in all those gaps of all the things that have changed. Because it might not seem like much to you because it happens gradually, but the shock to the system that I come back and people are only using gear that didn't even exist when I used to play, it's pretty dang interesting. So thank you so much, sir. Guys, check him out. Link in the description, the top pinned comment. We appreciate your time. Share with your mother, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.